Welcome to the Plato Paradigm, a paradigm shift in reading Plato's dialogues. Episode 223, Lysis 212d to 213a. Lysis had asked Socrates to beat his friend Menexenos in an eristic debate, but so far we've seen that Socrates has succeeded only in confusing the issue, or rather raising the points people generally don't consider when it comes to friendship, and now he is about to summarize the argument so far. Aloios ara nun heimindoke e proteron edoxen, totemengar eiho heteros philoi philo enai ampho. Nunde an meam photoroi philosin udeteros philos. Kindoniue efe. Otherwise then, now it seems to us than formerly appeared, for then, if one loved, they were both friends, but now, if neither loves, the Greek says if both don't love, then neither is a friend. So it happens, he said. All of this is based on the premise that one of the two loves and the other one is loved. Formerly, if one did the loving, they were both friends. But now, after all the questioning and argumentation, if one loves, then neither is a friend. It has been emphasized that the one being loved may dislike or even hate the one doing the loving. And this is because Socrates has confused loving with lusting, and Menexenos evidently has had some bad experience with some eristes. But this would imply that Menexenos himself doesn't distinguish very well between love and lust. The next few questions may appear to be a little eristic because Menexenos can begin to look ridiculous, but really these are good questions and they should make us think. Uk ara estin philon to philunti uden me uk antiphilun, uk eoiken. So it isn't the case that someone can be a friend to one loving if he doesn't love back. It doesn't seem that way. And here's where people could start laughing at Menexenos. Ud ara philippoiesin hus an hoi hippoi me antiphilosin, ude philoturges, udau philocunesce kai philoinoi kai philogymnastai kai philosophoi an me he sophia autus antiphile. So they are not horse lovers whom the horses don't love back, nor quail lovers, nor again dog lovers, or wine lovers, or exercise lovers, or expertise lovers, philosophoi, if indeed the expertise doesn't love them back. If the one being loved doesn't love or even hates the one loving, it has been agreed that therefore there are no friends in the relationship, neither of the people is a friend. Therefore, Socrates is now saying, if the object of the love doesn't love back, then the one loving also isn't a friend. The problem is that now he is playing with words. A horse lover, for example, is not called philos hippon, but a philippos, from which we get the name Philip. Philippos actually means a lover of horses, and not necessarily a friend of horses. But Socrates requires it to mean a friend of horses in order to be able to say that if horses are not friends of the friends of horses, then the friend of horses also isn't a friend, by the argument that if only one is doing the loving in a relationship, neither of them is a friend. This conclusion is a bit eristic, and it should make people amused, at least, at the expense of menexenos, and this could be counted as an eristic argument. It's not a very efficient eristic argument, and there is a serious point to all of this, because it is possible to love horses, to love quail, to love dogs, to love exercise. That was an interesting addition, by the way, and to love expertise. But we don't normally consider such people to be friends. And as Socrates said earlier, these are things that people want to acquire, to possess. People want to have horses, quails, dogs, wine, exercise, and expertise. These things are not expected to love the one loving back. A case could be made for horses and dogs, but certainly not for wine, exercise, or expertise. E philousi mentauta hekastoi, mentoi phila onta, or do the people each love these things while these things are not beloved? Socrates here is finally using philos in its original adjectival sense. Philos, phile, philon, masculine, feminine, and neuter, means beloved, not loving. And if we were to take the adjectival sense all the time, it is obvious that a philos is one loved, not the one loving. However, philos has become, through usage in the classical period, to mean the one loving as well, a friend in any sense of the word, a friend. Philos originally meant something dear to someone, something beloved. Socrates here uses the neuter plural form, things beloved, and that makes it very clear that philos has a passive sense. Having used the neuter form, Socrates now quotes a poet using the masculine plural, where we could be confused with friends, but it actually means beloved. Allah pseudeth ho poietes, hos ephe olbios o paides tephiloi kai moniches hippoi kai kunes agriutai kai xenos allodapos. But the poet is lying who said, "Blessed is he to whom there are beloved children and single-hoofed horses and hunting dogs and a guest from another land," presumably because if you have a guest from a foreign land, you're quite well off, and this is a status symbol. To be clear, the children, the horses, the dogs, and the guest are all beloved. And for that reason, the man is blessed. Were we to understand philoi here as friends, we would have to conclude that the poet was wrong, because it has already been concluded that the object of love which does not return the love, such as horses, is not a philos. So the poet describing these horses as philoi is wrong. And we could extend it to the other things here. The children, the dogs, and the guest are arguably not necessarily people who love back. Menexenus can't agree that the poet is lying. Uk emoi gedoke edhos It doesn't seem to me, he said. Al alethe doke legen soi? Nay. But he seems to you to be saying true things? Yes. To philumenon arat to philunti, philon estin, hos eroikeno menexene, ante phile, ante kaimise. So the thing being loved is philon to the one loving. So it seems menexenos, whether it loves or whether it even hates. Whenever things become abstract in a philosophical argument, an adjective becomes a neuter, singular, with a definite article. So if we want to talk about goodness, for example, that will become the good, to agathon, and beauty becomes the beautiful, to kolon. And here, because we have been talking about people and things being loved, that is now made abstract as the thing being loved, to philumenon. And Socrates says that to philumenon, in other words, the thing being loved in every case of being loved, is philon. And philon is the neuter singular adjective. The problem here is, if I translate it, I give it a definite significance, either passive or active, and that will then lose the confusing effect it has on the listeners. Philon for them sounds like friend, and the whole argument is whether a friend is someone who loves or someone who is loved. But we know that philon is the adjective, and the adjective is beloved. And it really doesn't matter whether the beloved loves back or hates back, he's still beloved. Hoion kai ta neostigegonot paidia, ta menudepo philunta, ta decai misunta, hotan koladze tai hupotes metros e hupotu patros, homos kai misunta enekeno to chrono panton malis taest in tois goniusin filtata. Emoi gedokeefe, hutos echen. Just like children who have recently been born, some not yet loving and others even hating, whenever they are punished by mother or by the father, nevertheless, even when hating in that time, above all things, they are still most beloved to their parents. It seems to me, he said, that this is the case. Uk araho philon philos ek tututu logu alho philumenos eoiken. So from this argument, it isn't the one loving who is the friend, but the one being loved. So it seems. This is a good bit of eristic wordplay. Philos is either the friend or the beloved. But in Greek, this distinction isn't made. It's just philos.